Okay. I'm very happy to begin to start with this meeting, the first one after of in this, let's say, session. We have a very nice series of data 5 o'clock before our CDO forum. Now we are starting the new series, and we have very special guest, the person who, in fact, do not need to be introduced, but I will tell a few words. It's Marilu Lopez, is Vice President of DAMA International, Vice President of Chapter Services in DAMA International, and we have a lot of contacts because Marilu is supporting us for already for years, so. It's very great to have Marilu here. It's what is even more important from today's perspective. Marilu is a really great expert in data management, having the CDM master level, and he's an author of the book which we'll talk about today on the data strategies for data governance, and is very great book, very practical book, how to make it, how to avoid the issues. But most probably Marilu will tell it about it much better than me, so I will just pass the word to you. Stage is yours, Marilu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited for being here. And I want to thank all the DAMA Poland team for having me here and giving me this great opportunity to share with you a message that I've been spreading around the world on the relevance of data strategy. First thing I would like to ask is, do you have a data strategy? Wait. Don't say yes. Everyone says yes. But do you have an effective data strategy, an open one, an holistic one? Let's talk about that. And at the end, you can tell me if you really have an effective data strategy in place. Okay, well, let's get started. And oh, let's see how this goes. Thank you for the kind introduction, Tomak. And I just want to highlight certain things on my story. I used to work at the financial sector. I dedicated 32 years of my professional life to a single company, but a single company that was the leading bank in Mexico. I'm based in Mexico City. And that bank then was bought by a global corporation. And that gave me a great perspective of the challenges around the world on data management. And that was my first opportunity to be engaged with data management when I had the chance after the 2008 financial crisis to create the first data governance office at the bank. At that moment, I had no idea what was that about. So trying to educate myself, I attended for the first time the EDW, the most important conference on data management. That is co-sponsored by DAMA International. At that moment, I had no idea what DAMA was, but I got this image of the real good effort that this organization is doing. At that time, I said, I need a chapter in Mexico. And with other folks, I had the opportunity to found the DAMA chapter in Mexico, which I led for 3 years before becoming the regional coordinator for Latin America, and being able to translate our guide, the DM book, to Spanish. And then I became the chair of the President's Council, where we meet with all the presidents of chapters around the world. And as Tomak said, I'm currently the chapter services VP in DEMA. So it was in 2012 where my addiction to DAMA International started, and I can't get rid of that. But that has allowed me to meet a lot of people, a lot of thought leaders on DAMA management, and even to develop a friendship with some of them. And that's why, well, first, I retired from corporate life almost 6 years ago and started my retirement project with an endeavor to create a small, very small company to promote data management education and most importantly, to promote the existence of an effective data strategy. Because the very first project I had as an independent consultant was precisely to help an organization here in Mexico to define their data strategies. At that point, I could tell what something was not a good data strategy, but I had no idea on how to produce one. So I started my research trying to find some guidelines on how to do things. I'm very methodic and very process oriented. So I was looking for that and I found nothing. That's why I developed my own method, the PAC method for data strategies, which I'm going to explain to you in this minutes. And well, even if Spanish, well, English is not my main language is Spanish. I decided to write my book first in English because I wanted to share my thoughts on data strategy with some of the thought leaders on data management. And they were very kind to provide me with an interview that was included in the book. So that's my story. And my book story started last year in September. Well, no, it started in December 2024, 2021 at the Data Governance and Information Quality. That was the first conference that Dataversity ran in person after the pandemic. And I was very, very happy to meet a lot of old friends, very good friends. And I remember that I shared the table on lunch with Danette McGilvray. She was collecting signatures from all her friends on her book. And I told her, oh, I wish one day I could write a book and do exactly what you are doing. And 10 minutes after that, she was sitting close to me and giving me all the recommendations on how to write a book. And I adopted her as my mentor for this project. And I'm very, very um, proud of all the support that she has given me through this project. And the book couldn't be out there if it wasn't by Steve Hoverman, who is a very pragmatic person and helped me on doing this. So it was released on September last year, and after that, I started traveling with my book around the world. The first stop was in an event organized by DAMA China Shanghai, where I remember one of the questions a person in the audience asked me before I presented the method. And this person asked me, hey, Marilu, how can we turn a data strategy into a verb? I love that analogy. And I said, well, with the PAC method. So you will tell me at the end of this chat if you really think that we could turn data strategy into a verb. Well, then I visited them at Calgary and I conducted a tutorial at the EDW this year. And one thing that I started doing was presenting this at universities because I'm very convinced and hope you can share these thoughts with me at the end, that this proposal that I'm going to explain makes sense to give it to the young generation that is preparing to be great professionals on the data space. And well, my last stop was at the DAMA Prague this year on last September. To celebrate the first anniversary of the book, it was released in Spanish, and I'm expecting that next year we'll have that in Chinese, Japanese, and Portuguese, and why not in Polish? It will be great. So, okay, let's get started. And my goals, my target for this next few minutes is to try to transmit to you the value of having a data strategy, an effective one, an open one, and the power of Canvas. And well, we are going to overview the data strategy pack method. Well, over the last years, we have heard a lot of buzzwords around us. First, with the data lake, and let's move to the cloud, and all those stuff. And nowadays, we all know that the current topic is AI. There's a lot of interest in this. And a few years ago, we had some predictions from McKinsey and Gartner saying that, well, a lot of organizations are already using AI tools for data analytics. And even Accenture predicted that for those organizations using this type of technologies, they could see their profitability increase in great percentage amount. But there are a lot of obstacles around this. It's not a free lunch. And among the main obstacles are data quality, data privacy, and security. And you all know that these are part of the data management disciplines that we need to have in place. I always like to compare data management with the building architecture. And I think seriously that data management compares to the foundation of the buildings. It's something that it's expensive, but it doesn't show up. We get in love of buildings for what we see, but we never see the foundation. So something similar happens with the data management practice. And it's exactly the same as the foundation of a building. If we do not invest the proper amount and put the proper resources, we can have the difference between having a building standing in its place when an earthquake comes and having it collapsing. If we don't invest on data management, we can have our organizations even collapse because of the lack of this practice. And data strategy is a cornerstone for the foundation of any organization. I love the studies that Business Application Research Center do on around data. And I found this one that I like a lot. It's a research on what the challenges are for data silos, and the reasons and causes for having data silos. And there are a lot of causes that you can see on the screen. But the most relevant one that caught my attention was the lack of data strategy. The same organization did another study, another research on the barriers to develop a data culture. Almost all the organizations aim to be a data-driven organization, and we are recently talking about data literacy. But this research showed that 50% of the people responding this survey said that the most relevant obstacle was the lack of data strategy. That's why this organization created a framework to develop data culture where data strategy is one of the pillars. But what happens if we don't have an effective, holistic data strategy and an open one? And what do I mean by this? Well, I normally, when I talk with someone in an organization and I ask, do you have a data strategy? They immediately say, yes, of course. When I had a chance to look at it, it normally shows a very technology oriented strategy, a strategy on how to move to new technology platforms, how to move to the data lake, how to move to the cloud, and nowadays, how to adopt AI tools to support understanding better our data. But what I mean for an effective data strategy is one that covers all the organization's needs and that prioritizes those needs, and that it's open in the sense of not defined by a small group of people, but from representatives from all the organization. And we'll talk about this. But not having this effective data strategy can represent having over investments on technology platforms that are not always showing the value we expect from them. And it's not that the technology platforms are bad at all. It's simply that we jump into purchasing tools without understanding our problems and which are the most relevant ones. And well, not having all the different teams working on the different data management functions not being articulated or orchestrated. And this, I call it like functional silos. It's not only having information silos that I already talked about, it's having functional silos where different teams do not talk to each other. This all represents a lot of cost that it's not well understood. And the first thing that an organization thinks to do when they have to reduce their operational expenses is to eliminate those teams that no one understands what they are doing. That's why we uh, sometimes see the data governance teams disappearing. It's something that I don't understand, but I can guess that that happens because no one understands, even the data governance teams, they don't understand what they have to do. Well, starting first with the definition, I would like to explain strategy first and then data strategy with some of the term metadata. So the origin of the term strategy comes from military space, military arena. And the definition, well, there are a lot of definitions out there, but one that I like a lot because it did inspire me was this one that Peter Aiken and Todd Harbour included in their book, Data Strategy and the Enterprise Data Executives. They say that data strategy is the highest level guidance available to an organization, focusing on activities on an articulated goal achievement to providing direction to specific guidance when faced with a stream of decisions and uncertainties. Well, the thing is that the authors of a strategy is normally a selected team, an elite team within an organization. And if we talk about privacy, it has a secrecy veil on it. No one has to know about our strategy or we are lost. That's the belief. Well, to have the definition of data strategy, let's explore something similar. The definition that Peter and Todd Harbour did for data strategy, well, they only put the word data in front of their previous definition. But the scope, well, as I mentioned, I normally see that the data strategies are very technology oriented strategies or migration paths or plans. And the authors, well, they happen to be defined by selected team of IT folks. And the privacy, again, it is only shared with selected people in the organization. The beliefs, oh, it takes too long to be developed, and we are always in a hurry, and we always have very specific pain points that we want to relieve. My own definition is this one. My definition, first of all, notice that it is not in the singular, but in the plural. I say that data strategies are the highest level guidance in an organization to intelligently assign resources, which are always limited, to work in an integrated way to achieve data related goals and contribute, this is the most important thing, to achieve the business strategic objectives. The scope to be an holistic data strategy, I say that all the representatives of all the organizations, all line of businesses, all cross-functional organizations needs to participate in the definition of the data strategy. This way, the authors are going to be not a selected team, but representatives from all the units in the organization. And the privacy, well, it needs to be an open data strategy. It needs to be communicated with everyone that is working in a data related initiative. Believes is that this can be achieved in 9 weeks or less. And it must be part of the enterprise strategy planning to be considered, to have data really considered as the relevant asset for an organization. And this is the key for data initiatives to be successful. I normally say that the path to an effective data management program is, first of all, to start educating people, to start agreeing on common vocabulary to understand what we mean when we talk about data and how to manage it. Then we need to identify where we are standing in terms of the maturity of our practices on data management. I really think that adopting a formal data management maturity model based on capabilities is a core thing, a key thing if we want to have an effective data strategy. And not only doing an assessment of our maturity once, it has to be done at least once a year. And then when we know where we are standing, we can define the data strategy that will very naturally lead us to have effective operating models for data governance, for data architecture, for metadata management, for data quality management. Well, I mentioned that my very first project as a consultant was to define a data strategy for an organization. And when I did my research and found nothing, I did find a lot of inspiring sources. And my first inspiring framework, of course, you can bet it, was the DAMA International Framework. But I also had another framework that inspired me a lot. That I also had the fortune to be involved in the translation to Spanish of DICAM, became the data management capability assessment model defined by the Enterprise Data Management Council, an organization very similar to DAMA International, that it's not-for-profit organization, but the difference is that the EDM Council has a membership of organizations, not individuals or professionals like DAMA International does. And a lot of people have asked me over the time, uh, which of these two frameworks I recommend most. And I say, no way, they work together. They are like a perfect pairing of a good wine with a good cheese and enjoying the experience. So that was my first inspiration. And I mentioned that it's very relevant to have a maturity model. I'm very familiar with DCAM, but there are other data management maturity models out there. The relevant thing is that you pick one, you adopt one, because at the time when you produce your roadmaps on how you're going to move forward, it is very relevant here in these boxes that some represent data governance strategy milestones. Some others represent data management milestones. But the ones that are highlighted in black represent the capabilities coming from a maturity model that have to be established. So it's like having anchors to guide us in a trip over the seas. But the most relevant inspiration that I had was the data, the business model canvas method that Alex Osterwalder defined as his PhD project almost 20 years ago. I learned about this in 2006 when I was designing before being involved with data management. I used to be an enterprise architect at the bank, and I designed a 6 months course with a university here in Mexico, and I learned about this method. Ever since that moment, I have been using the business model canvas for everything in my life to define. Every time I change my role at the bank, I first define my canvas for my own understanding of what I had to do, and then to explain it to my team, my peers, and my superiors or supervisors. And I'm very convinced of this. And this is a method that allows you to describe in a single page, on a single slide, whatever organization, public or private, that you could have in any sector in a single slide. And I said, oh, if this has been so successful over these years, why shouldn't I have a canvas for each of my data strategies? And that's what I did. Well, the first thing, remember I said data strategies in the plural? Well, that's because I created this framework of data strategy where you can see the ones highlighted in blue are the main different data strategies that I believe an organization needs to have in place. The first one is data alignment strategy, where we align the data we need to have in place to support and address all the business strategy, all the business strategic objectives. First thing I do here is to in workshop like sessions with representatives of all over the place in the organization. First thing I ask them, which business questions you ask yourself every day when you start your work and not always get answered, because lacking of data. You don't have the data you need to answer those questions, or the data is not timely, it's not coming timely, or it's not accurate. It has uh, quality issues. Second thing we ask is all the pain points that the people have related to data, and the behaviors they recognize on the people in the organization related to data that are not healthy, that are not helping. But it's not asking them. Normally, consultants go and do individual interviews. The important here in this method is to ask everyone for the three questions they ask themselves, or the three pain points, or the three behaviors. And then everyone defines the top three problems, the top three questions for the organization. Everyone knows how to do like to something. We are very well trained on that. So that's the relevance, not only identifying insights of the organization, but prioritizing those. Those priorities are the input to define the data management strategy. That is nothing else than prioritizing how we are going to formally address the data management functions. You can recognize these boxes because those are the slides of the DAMA wheel, all the different data management functions. Having data governance at the top. Why? Because I think that we can't address more than three functions at a time to be effective. And one of those three is always data governance. The other two functions have to be defined and prioritized based on the priorities coming from the data alignment strategy. Well, this time, now that we have the data management strategy in place with the priorities, now it can be socialized with the IT folks to define which technology platforms need to be in place or leverage if we already have someone. And then it has to be socialized with other strategies like change management, communication, internal communication. And we always find at least one strategic initiative in an organization that we can leverage to deploy the data management practice. So that's the principle. Once we have the data management strategy, we can go deep and define the data governance strategy and the strategy for each of these disciplines that we are starting to work formally in turn. And that's how the PAC method came into place. PAC stands for pragmatic because we need all these people getting involved, representatives from all the organization, and their agendas are always tight. So we need to be very pragmatic on how to use their time, and we need to be agile. It's not written on stone. We need to be able to update the data strategies if something is happening around the organization or any change on the business strategy. And it has to be communicable. We need to be able to allow people needing a guidance, a daily guidance on how to move forward, to be able to find these strategies and to use them. And most importantly, to understand them. So let's face it, we don't read a lot anymore. So having this with explain each of these strategies on a single slide, I think is a very powerful way to communicate the data strategies. So the PAC method is comprised of the data strategies framework that I already explained, a set of canvases for each of those strategies, and a 10-step cycle that has to be followed at least once a year. So these are the canvases, very simple slides, very simple with a lot of work behind scenes. There's a lot of things that we need to collect, information we need to collect, and we need to synthesize those, and we need to summarize and put those in a single slide. So this is the canvas we use for the data alignment strategy. And notice that we start by identifying the business questions, the data pain points as an input to define the strategy. The data management strategy canvas is similar. We have the same inputs, adding the behaviors of people, and then we have short, mid, and long term, usually a term per year one, year two, year three. We start by defining the strategic objectives of data management. And the first row is to define the capabilities of data governance, taken from the maturity model that we select, whatever you want. But you need to prioritize how to implement those capabilities, plus any additional capabilities that you require specifically for your organization. Then the functions, which data management functions we are going to prioritize. Remember the set of 3 functions at a time. And then the data domains, that it's very easy because those were prioritized in the data alignment strategy. Next, we have the sources. With which data sources are we going to work? We may choose to start working first with the data warehouse or the data lake or whatever source we define. And importantly, is always having metrics to be able to communicate and to manage expectations across the organization, and recognizing the partners. We always have internal partners to support this practice. The data governance canvas is very, very similar. The connecting thread is the set of capabilities that we mentioned in the previous canvas. And then we have the structure. Are we going to start with a set of data stewards all over the place, or just with the data governance lead, a couple of people, and 2 data stewards? We can say that, and over the time we can expand and increase the scope of the practice around the organization. This is having this way helps a lot to manage expectations across all the organization, and having people representing all the organization participating in the definition of these strategies opens all the doors when we have to execute the data strategies. Important thing here in this canvas is to define the objects to be governed. It's not that we are going to govern all the data at once. No, we need to define what is that we are going to govern. It could be a process, a business process, even a business report, a strategic or regulatory report, or a data repository. Whatever has to be very clearly scoped here. And as well, and derived from that, which organizations from the organization units are going to be addressed first. And well, I'm a Canvas lover, a business model lover. So I believe that data governance and any of the data management functions can be expressed as a business within the organization, and they deserve to have a business model defined, because every function and every team needs to recognize their customers and to define a value proposition for the customers and to define key activities to prevent the organization from asking the data governance team to produce reports or do any other stuff that has nothing to do with data governance at all, but keeps people busy. And well, for each of the specific functions that we prioritize, there is a canvas as well. And having the canvases defined, the roadmap can be produced very easily. And again, as a great tool to help us manage the expectations around the organization. So the third component of this method, the PAC method, is the 10 steps process or cycle. And we start by defining who is going to participate. And then with those people, we get all the business insights, the problems, the questions, the motivations, the behaviors. And then we can start producing or updating, because this has to be followed every year at least, each of those main strategies: the alignment strategy, the data management strategy, the data governance strategy, the specific strategies, and specific function strategies. And then we produce the data governance business model and the roadmaps. We start socializing that across the organization, and we integrate that. This is the most relevant one, into the strategic planning of the organization. Not everyone has to participate in all the strategies. The one that requires people from all over the place is the alignment strategy. And then we start reducing the amount of people working on the definition of data strategy, the other data strategies. Notice, though, that the data governance team is always the facilitator for this process. And that's it. That's my method. And I hope that I was successful on transmitting the main things of this method, and why I believe that this method, the PAC method, can effectively turn data strategy into a verb, into something actionable that can be guiding the daily work of all people working in different data initiatives. Thank you very much for your patience, your attention. And if we still have some time for some questions, I will be delighted to take them.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
Thank you.
very insightful and helpful. And for, I think it's for people like me who didn't know who didn't read the book yet, it was really practical. And so I think that we have some questions on the chat. We have at least 11 minutes till planned end of the meeting, but hopefully if we need some more time, maybe we'll answer all questions. Um, so if
Maybe
you have,
Marta,
okay.
you go. Yeah. So Marta, can you ask your question, or should I read it? Okay.
Hello. This was very good speech. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hmm. My question is about the definition, because in many companies, data management, data strategy, or data governance are the same theory. And how to explain the difference? I know them, but how to in business explain this?
That's a very good question, Martha. Thank you. And you address something that I normally find. I also train on data management, and when I do my data management ABC training, I normally say my goal is to tell the difference between data governance and data management, because a lot of people is still using them as equivalent terms, and that's not. Data governance is part of the data management. The data management is a set of different disciplines that are interrelated and need to be orchestrated to prevent having functional silos. And that's the role of data governance, precisely defining how to orchestrate the different activities around the different functions like data architecture, and data modeling, data quality, etc. So that's those two terms. Now, for those two terms, data management and data governance, we need to have a guidance. And okay, where do we get started? How do we proceed? And that's the guidance of the data strategy. That's the role of data strategy. So how to convince people in the top level in the organizations to dedicate their people, their stakeholders, and time to define a data strategy is first of all making them aware of how much it costs today to have a lack of data strategy. This is showing the CEXOs how much they have invested in tools that they have not used totally. That's one point. The other point is how much they are wasting or having expenses on perhaps paying fines because they have bad quality in their data. That's a business case that can help you showing we need to have a direction on how to have better quality of data. But a lot of organizations say, oh yeah, we need to improve our data quality, but they don't know where to get started. They don't know where to identify the critical data elements. There's where a data strategy at the top can guide you to do that.
Yeah, that's for me it's clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marta. And Dorota, can you ask?
Yep. Good afternoon or good morning. My question is more on the practical side, maybe, because right now I'm having an issue where where I have a global company. There is a lot of subsidiaries, and there is a lot of how can I say it, chaos, right? Because the company was selling, acquiring, which is very typical in currently, and they are the productive manufacturing company that have no idea how to what to do with their data, and they are trying to implement the data governance. And they really don't have a good idea how to do it. So I'm just thinking, should we start small with few people, or try and try to build something uh, with whatever capabilities we have, or should we go big and pull more people, try to make the thing bigger? What is the better approach?
Okay, I have a very similar case right now, a manufacturer organization that belongs to a global one. And the one here in Mexico are asking me the same question. And what we're planning to do is to start with the folks here in Mexico, in the local side, to be something that could be show off to the rest of the corporation. At the same time, they have some corporate or global guidance. It's not ignoring that. We need to take that in place. But instead of starting asking for people from all over the world to come together to a workshop, what we can do is start with a local organization, considering they must know the global directions that they have. So when we start asking, which are your business strategic objectives, those have to be present there. They need to know. I say they need to know them, but not always are explicitly documented. I have been working in our organization, a very old organization here in Mexico, and I said, I can't believe they don't know what the business objectives are, but that was true. So we need to discover those and prioritize those. So that's my bet on the best approach working with global corporations. And then you can transmit that and you can show, oh, this works. Every time we happen to do this, people say, oh, we haven't never done this. And because you bring everyone together. It's very different. If you ask people individually, they will say that their problems are the most relevant, not in the organization, in the universe. And you need people coming together and defining, I don't know what your problems are, which are the 3 top problems for the organization, and let's get started there.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank
the
you.
question. So I think we have a couple of minutes left, but if
Yeah.
you don't have more questions and you come with questions later on, you can find me. Oh, well, just for your audience here from DAMA Poland, you have a 30% discount if you want to get the book. There is a link there, and the team in DAMA Poland has the presentation. If I don't know what their plans are, but you can share this with your audience here, with your members. And whatever questions you have later on. Oh, well, I didn't mention that the book comes with a web companion page, because my intent is to inspire others to follow this method and to improve the method. Why not? So the companion page, you can find some of the images that are included in the book, so you can use those in your own presentations to go to your CXOs and convince them on how to create a data strategy. You will also find the templates and a case study that could inspire you on how to use the canvases. And here are my contact information. Please follow me and let's get in contact, and whatever further questions that you may have, I'll be glad to answer those. And
Thank
again,
you.
thank
Thank you.
you very
And we have,
much
but we have
for
still
having me here.
to at least two people with questions. If you don't mind, if you
No?
can. So maybe Wojtek was first, I think. So
Yeah.
please.
Wojtek.
Wojtek, yeah.
Okay. So maybe Andrzej was already appeared on the screen. So
I had
okay.
technical issues with my unmuting.
Okay, very
so
quickly.
Go, Andrzej.
Okay. So
Okay. So very quickly, somebody said that you bet on the people, not on the strategies. But my question is, in your opinion, who is the best role of carry out the transformation of data management and data strategy, and why it is chief data officer? Thank you.
That's a great question. I always have that. And it was very interesting. When traveling to Prague last month, I had a stop in Amsterdam. So the person sitting close to me in the flight was going back to Amsterdam after visiting Mexico. So I started chatting. Just it was a long trip, and I need to get familiar with my neighbor. And I asked him. He was the CEO of an organization related to cars industry. And he started telling me, I didn't ask, he started telling me that he had in their organization, they had to deal with a lot of, a lot of data to advise the car owners of whatever thing was happening with the car, or if they need to stop by the service or whatever. And Then I asked, oh, that's great. I'm very related to data management. So do you have a data strategy in place? And he said, of course we have. And I said, oh, that's great. And who defines that? And he said, me. He was the CEO, not even the CDO. He was the CEO. And I said, no way, you have to read my book. Because, well, one thing is who is accountable of things. So I don't care about the role very much. I care about who has the power to communicate, to sell within the organization the need of having this data strategy. It could be someone in IT, yeah, it could be the CIO, if you will, or however you want to call that person, as long as it's very convinced on the need of this and has a seat in the right place to talk to others and to convince them. But one thing is who is accountable. So it could be the CDO if you have the chief data officer in place. Yeah, perfectly good. Who drives this? That's a different story. Because not the CEO or CDO or CIO, they are not going to organize the parties or the workshops and doing all the paperwork and getting. I said that we collect a lot of information that we have to prioritize and put that in the way of canvases. So I believe it's like the Formula One racing. We have a lot of people defining strategy, but at the end, we only have a pilot driving the car. So the pilot here is the data governance lead and the team, the data governance team. They are the facilitators for this. I wonder if I answer your question.
Yes. That's finally it is the best person is who brings the money.
It not only bring the money, I always say, because I have suffered that, I have had people in my last life in the bank, people giving me the money, a lot of money, and never caring about how I use it. And I suffer that so much because it's not putting the money, it's putting the care. It's caring about what you're doing. It's believing in what you're doing. So
Yeah,
I
that's the
normally
point.
talk about different type of sponsors. Yeah, you need a sponsor that puts the money, but you also need that sponsor putting the money cares about it. And there are many other sponsors that do not put the money directly, but are great influencers for the organization to believe. And
That's the point. Thank you very much.
And one last thing that I would like to add, and that's in one of my interviews, but one of the interviews that I included in the book comes from Häcken Edvinsson from Sweden. And he is the author of Data Diplomacy. When I interviewed him, I did the same questions to all the interviewers. And one was, how do you convince top managers to do data strategies? And he asked me the same question. How do you do that, Marilu? And I said, well, I normally start by talking about the pain points. And he said, wrong. You need to transform into a health insurance seller. And you need to sell data strategies as if you were selling a health insurance. Because when people say that they care about their current pain point and they want to get rid of that, that's something simple. But you need to make people aware of the huge pain they're going to face in some years if they don't have an insurance today. A data strategy is an insurance for the future. And I like that very much.
That's the point. Thank you very much.
Do we still have another
So the last
question?
question from Wojtek,
So
I think.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. So thank you. It was very great lecture to me. But my question is around because you mentioned a couple of times how important the involvement of business is in this process to make it not just an IT thing. But
no. Yes.
I would bring something opposite. So the situation when we are trying to introduce the strategy, but our business is somehow tempted by all new shiny things like chatbots, AI, etc., while our foundational platforms are legacy mainframe things, and it's very difficult to grab their attention when it comes to the multi-year program that would improve the situation, improve the time to market, and decrease the cost. Because it's not that attractive as introducing chatbots. So, what would you advise to make it happen? How to make stakeholders, into fixing core things?
Great question, and that's very true. Remember my analogy with the building foundation? You're just describing that. People get in love with what they see, with all the glamorous things of the AI, the chat GPT, and all the data visualizations and dashboards and all that stuff. But the thing is, you need to address the things that are happening today. Not telling people how much it will cost to have a data strategy or to have a data governance in place, reminding people, making they aware of what they are already expending for not having a good practice in place. So it takes some time to get the numbers, but you can have those. And I have very good stories on how we did that at the bank where I used to work. And the book has, the second part of the book has the process very, very well detailed with a lot of recommendations on how to go to the business, how to involve them. And something that you can't prevent is that you will always have very skeptical people in the first session. But once you start collecting information and showing them the first canvases, that changes always. So believe me, you can involve people because, and that's why it has to be something very pragmatic. You must offer them that you won't take more than 12 hours from their agendas and be very effective on respecting that time.
Okay. And
well,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me here. It has been a great experience. I always learn a lot from your questions, and they always ask me think over and over on how to improve or how to improve the way in which I communicate this or I sell this. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time. Well, thank you that it goes so easy that you allow or agreed to make it for us, and was really helpful. And I also like to mention that, and I like to say big thank you to all people who organized the meeting, especially to Wojciech Rauser, who is not unfortunately not with us today, but he spent a lot of time preparing the meeting. So thanks to last not least, thanks to all of you that you participated and asked questions and so on.